Morning all. All right, so it is draft lottery day today. That's right. It is the Connor Bedard sweepstakes day. And so for people who wanted to hear the end of that discussion, today will be the end of that, although the hype for the number 1 draft pick is going to continue right up until and probably beyond the draft. So tonight we would just have the one game in the NHL. It starts at 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific, because at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific, we will have the draft lottery. But at 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific, we do have Vegas and Edmonton meeting in Edmonton. Game 3, series tied 1-1. William Karlsson with 4 goals, 2 assists, 6 points. If you need a big goal, very often, that will come from Karlsson. At least over their playoff history. We'll see if he can get that done tonight. Draisaitl has had a lot of attention, and he's had a lot of goals. 6 goals through the first 2 games of this series, 13 overall, so he has 13 goals, 4 assists, 17 points. Laurent Brossoit sporting an 896 save percentage. Skinner sporting an 895. I would expect both goaltenders to stay below 900. And if they make any changes in the Vegas net, we'll see. But I would guess they go back with Brossoit. I don't worry as much about the starting goaltenders during the playoffs because it very rarely changes. It is not like the regular season at all. So I want to talk about the draft lottery and take one last look at the odds. Anaheim has a good chance of finishing first, 25.5% chance of drafting first, 18.8% chance of drafting second. However, 55.7% chance of drafting third. So that means that in more than half the cases, the way these numbers come out, uh, Anaheim would end up picking third. And I've always seen people saying, "Oh well, it's can we see this live?" It's not like it used to be. It's not a bunch of ping pong balls with the teams' names on them. The NHL's actually shown the process, and it's kind of dry and kind of boring. But it's basically certain combinations come out, and that means a certain team wins. And Columbus hopes that their combination comes out. They have a 13.5% chance of drafting first, but the odds are they draft third or fourth. 30.7% third, 41.7% chance of drafting fourth. Chicago has an 11.5% chance of drafting first, an 11.2% chance of drafting second, and they're the last team with a good chance of drafting third at 7.8%. Um, but there's a 39.47% chance they move down to fourth and a 29.8% chance they move down to fifth. For San Jose, the odds are much greater. They move down to fifth. 44.6% chance. They have a 9.5% chance of either drafting first or second. Then you get down to Montreal. They have a 44% chance of drafting sixth, so that's likely where they end up. But 8.5% chance of drafting first, 8.6% chance of drafting second. Then you have the Coyotes, 41.4% chance of drafting seventh, 34.1% chance of drafting sixth. They have a 7.5% chance at Bedard, 7.7% chance at likely Fantilli at second. And then you got Philadelphia. They have a 44.4% chance of drafting seventh, 36.5% chance of drafting eighth, 6.5% chance of drafting first, 6.7% chance of drafting second. And this is where the NHL wants it, is with these odds to be pretty close, and it is to discourage tanking, that thing that doesn't happen, right? So then you get down to the Capitals, and we get the percentage chance of drafting in a certain spot goes up. They have a 54.4% chance of drafting eighth. Detroit has a 64.4% chance of drafting ninth. For St. Louis, 73.3% chance of drafting 10th. Vancouver has a 79.9% chance of drafting 11th. So, yes, there's a 3% chance they draft first, 3.2% chance they draft second, but in all likelihood, Vancouver's drafting 11th. They have a 0.5% chance of drafting 13th, which would mean 2 of the teams behind them moving forward. Now, Ottawa's pick that was traded to Arizona is protected, so if they win the draft lottery, they don't have very good chances of winning the draft lottery. Ottawa would draft first, draft second, 5.1% chance at second. They do not have a chance at first, and a 0.1% chance of third or fourth. Arizona gets the picks. If it's 12th or beyond, they have an 85.7% chance of drafting 12th, a 0.2% chance of drafting 14th. Then you get to Buffalo. They have a 4.2% chance of moving up to third overall in the draft. Pittsburgh has a 3.2% chance of moving up to 4th in the draft. Nashville, 97.9% chance they draft 15th. They have a 1.1% chance of moving up to 5th. Calgary has a 1.1% chance of moving up to 6th, meaning a 98.9% chance of drafting 16th. So odds are the first card that gets turned over is Calgary's, but that's where the fun shows up, and that's what we'll have on the board as usual. The 16 logos of the teams that are picking, and then as we go through, we'll go, yep, these are all in the same order. Whoops, that team hasn't shown up on time, so they've moved up. So we'll see what ends up happening. It might end up being one of those boring ones where two of the lower rated teams end up getting the top 2 picks. But either way, there's going to be a couple of happy fan bases coming out of this draft lottery, maybe 3 or 4. But there's also going to be that disappointment. And so if you're a Detroit or Vancouver fan and you're like, you know what, I've seen a lot of these, I'm going to go golfing or I'm going to go watch a movie, I can't really say I blame you, because odds are, yeah, there's an 8% chance between the two of them. And I'm thinking Vancouver's probably not getting Bedard. I just don't want to get my hopes up because, again, it's only a 3% chance. But yeah, so we'll see how this all turns out tonight. And I will say, too, I'm going to mention a little update on the last video I did. I said that people will argue that it's rigged if Chicago or Arizona win it because Chicago's perceived as being the NHL's favorite, right? And Arizona is deemed as being the NHL's pet project. So the idea being, okay, so they're going through this rebuild. And it'd be nice if they got that number 1 draft pick and their pet project got a huge boost from getting a megastar coming in, potential megastar in Bedard. I've also seen all the negativity towards Connor Bedard, and I've seen a lot of, well, the same was said about Alexis Lafreniere as Bedard. No. The hype about Lafreniere was about him being NHL ready. The comparisons I saw with him most often were Patrick Kane, and he has not lived up to that billing, but the billing for Bedard is higher. He's seen as being a genuine superstar in the making. So he will likely transform the franchise that ends up drafting him. The hype is very often overblown, but in this case, I don't think it is. It's sort of like the Dahlin draft. The Dahlin draft, there was a lot of talk about how good Dahlin was going to be. He's kind of lived up to that, too. It took a little bit longer than expected, but Dahlin's been excellent, too. So we'll see how things go with tonight's draft lottery. Let me know your prediction on who's going to win the draft lottery, too, because why not? So a little bit from last night's game and from all the discussions around the Toronto Maple Leafs, there is some speculation that if Florida sweeps Toronto, that we may see some major changes on that team. Getting out of the first round and beating Tampa Bay is one thing, and great. They got out of the first round, that meme dies. But if they only win one more game and they get swept by the Florida Panthers, nobody's going to care if they outplayed Florida. It's just going to be, another punchline now that they waited 19 years for one extra win. And so, yeah, Toronto cannot afford to, and I mean, they're down 3-0. I cannot see any scenario by which they come back and beat Florida. But as rare as that is, that's something Toronto's going to have to hold on to, or at least try to make a series of it. If they're going to argue that they're as good of a core as Kyle Dubas has argued, then they're going to need to win at least a couple of games and make it interesting before Florida takes them out. Because, again, I think Dubas' job may be on the line. I've seen a lot of discussion about Dubas and his reactions in the booth. And I think that's what it is. I really think that there's a lot of jobs that could potentially be on the line. And if you fail as the Toronto Maple Leafs again, that's a lot of years of failing. And just winning that extra game against Tampa Bay may not be enough to keep some jobs here. But we'll see what happens and where the blame would lie. We've always said with that core that if they decide to move somebody, Nylander would be the easiest to move out of that core. But is that a wise decision if they do that? I would argue Nylander's been good. Not great in this round, absolutely. I don't think there's a lot of Leafs that you can argue have been great this round. But there's definitely something off there, and Florida's taking advantage. So at some point in time, we will give Florida the proper amount of credit. That does often, when you have a team going on an underdog run, there will always be that narrative that whatever team has lost to those teams is awful and how horrible this is for them. But yeah, with Toronto, I do get the feeling there could be some pretty big changes in the offing if this goes down the way that it looks like it will, especially with Samsonov being hurt, not being able to return. If they have to go to Matt Murray, Matt Murray hasn't played in a while. There's no way to tell how ugly the next game could get, or maybe Matt Murray, turns in the game of his life, and they at least win a game out of it. But let me know your thoughts. How big of how big of a change would you expect out of the Leafs should they lose this series in 4 straight? Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happen upon this video. Remember, the live stream goes up on the channel a half an hour before the live streams or before the draft lotteries on TV, so we can have all the speculation and all the discussion, and then get into who's going to get drafted where, and again, there's going to be some excited fan bases out there, and I'm excited for you as a fan of a team that's technically in the running for Bedard, but not really. So let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.